Motherhood. 1 minute, you're Mom of the Year.
I love you, Mommy.
Then the next, not so much. From bath time to bullying, from potty training to puberty, parenting is full of challenges. But one thing is for certain, you are not alone. Welcome to Modern Mom Probs. I'm your host, author, mother, parenting expert, Tara Clark. Join me while we tackle today's modern mom problems. Tina, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
I am so excited for you to be here. We just chatted, I don't even know, for 10 minutes. I should have been recording that because it was just magic. But I know that this conversation is going to be magic because you are magical.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Heart to you too.
Heart, or I guess this is how the millennials, I don't even know. I don't know.
I keep trying to do the one with the Gen Z one and I can't do it. And I keep goofing it up and everyone's like, Sarah, stop. And then I was doing this sign and they're like, that's not it. That is not the sign. So I'm just better off. I do like this one.
Old school. Keep it classic.
Old school.
OG.
Done. Exactly. That's what I'm all about. So just to tell the audience what we're doing from an audio perspective, we're using our fingers to make hearts to each other in the old school way.
Reminder.
Okay.
Yes.
Just, I'm just walking them through it so that they understand. So I'm giving hearts to everyone here, including Tina. So Tina, you are the creator of Rebranding Motherhood.
Yes.
Tell me all about yourself. Tell me about your company. Tell me where you're from. Tell me all the things.
Yeah. So first of all, I'm a proud Black mom of 2. I have 2 little girls, ages 5.5 going on 45, which I think is common for anybody roommating with a toddler.
Mm-hmm.
And then my other daughter, Zuri Quinn, is 2.5, will be 3 in July. And so I'm deep in the toddler vibes. And so that's like a little bit about me. I have a husband, Nathan. We live in Maine. We live in a 300-year-old English colonial house. Why did I do that to myself with a toddler?
What? Wait, I want to hear all about. I want to talk about Maine. I want to talk about this historic home. I love that. Just last weekend, we went up to Vermont for the first time, and Vermont is a vibe.
Yes.
I just didn't know. I just never went up there. It was only 3 hours from our house, and it was gorgeous.
Beautiful.
I've never been to Maine yet. I say yet because I still want to get to Maine, maybe this summer.
We're booking her travel as we speak right now.
Yeah.
Literally
click. I'm booking it. I'm booking the hotel.
Right. So I live in New England. But a little bit about me is I had a 16-year plus career building billion-dollar brands for the biggest global CPG company in the world, Procter & Gamble. Working on brands like Pampers, Olay, Old Spice, Secret, selling to the biggest global retailers, Walmart, Amazon, CVS, all of them, really, Costco, etc. And so I had this really unique experience getting to be a classically trained brand builder, getting to learn how to build brands, learning at the heart at the importance of our number one consumer in our economy, moms.
Yep, that's us.
Which was great until I became a mom, right? Like I felt like I had an idea of motherhood and I kind of understood it, but really didn't quite understand the impact I was having as someone trying to be a storyteller and a brand builder to this imagery of motherhood. And so I had a really great career, but it's challenging being a Black woman in corporate America. I'm not going to lie or hide that. And once I became a mom, it became insurmountable. The ability to really feel like I could show up like my most authentic self, like I could really thrive, like I could have the flexibility to show up in the most important job I hold for me, which is being a mother. And so I had to make a choice and I ended up kind of going into startup world. I took a job at a startup for about 1.5 years, co-leading the enterprise sales team for a startup called the Mom Project. And it was a great experience because I got to go from sitting in this corporate world, wondering if I had the chops to, really be the leader I saw myself as, to then getting to sit in front of C-suite executives, the CHROs, the CMOs, the CEOs of Fortune 50 companies, and basically hold the mirror up in front of them and say, what's your plan to support moms? What's your plan to go drive diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging? Like, what are you doing to make the world a better place? Which was super empowering. Not gonna lie.
Yes.
That was like a cool,
yes.
Yeah. It was a great transition, but I still wasn't really connecting to like what I felt like my calling was. And I happened to be alongside all of this as your spirit guide would do for you, your most highest self. I was dabbling in this motherhood world in my personal life. And I was a consulting producer on a docu-series that was in development about the fourth trimester with an amazing director who's now become one of my best friends. Like, she's also a mom with littles, same age. And her and I were chatting. And at the time, this was, gosh, like time really does melt away when you're a mom.
It does.
Especially after the pandemic. It's really a deeper black hole. But through the pandemic, I want to say like maybe a year and a half ago, there was a lot of tech layoffs. I think people probably remember when Google hit the headlines for cutting like 20,000 people, like 16,000 people. My company had let go of a sizable amount of our organization as well. So I was a free agent talking to my girlfriend. I'm on this project. And she's like, look, girl, like, what do you want to do for this show? And I said, well, I want to rebrand motherhood. It was literally 2 moms, 2 girls, 2 friends, kikiing, trying to like figure out what we were going to do with my life. And we just were talking about that. And she was like, okay, so go do that, Tina. And I said, the patriarchy, I can't do it by myself. Come with me, please. I can't. And she says to me, are we allowed to curse on this show?
Go ahead.
Okay. She says, fuck that. You got it. You go. You can do this. You don't need anybody else. Come hit me back. Go build something. And I believe in you. And
That's the best advice someone could give you. I believe in you. Go do it.
Go do it. You don't need any help. And she's been my champion and my like creative like guide through this whole journey ever since then. And like I think a month or 2 after our conversation, I said, okay, I'm going to go do this. I had a personal Instagram of like, whatever, 200 followers, 100 followers, my mother-in-law, my weird ex-boyfriend from college.
You're like old, like coworkers that you never talk to anymore.
3 people I don't even know who they are and remember them. That's what my personal Instagram page is like. It's like a hodgepodge of the most random people. Right? Just like a collection of the randomness.
Yes, collection. That's a good word to describe
that's happened in my life. And so I got serious and I launched it. I want to say it was like, I don't know, November of 2023. Started with 200 followers and in less than 6 months grew to over 70,000 followers.
Damn.
International page, blue check verified. And I realized a couple of things in that moment. One, your girl learned a lot at P&G, but I also did know a lot of things. And it was in me the whole time.
Yes.
2, I do have this unique connective thread to talk to mothers. And for me, the platform or the throughput for my brand and my mission is about eradicating sanitized imagery as it relates to motherhood. That is what we're about. And around that, we're providing resources and education, connection points, community, and really trying to eliminate the chronic isolation that so many mothers and birthing people experience in our society. Because, I mean, I was on the other side of it. We're serving up so much imagery that is so disconnected from our actual experience that I like to say mothers are living closeted lives. People don't understand anything that we're going through. They're super confused, which is clear to me in the absence of policies, the absence of laws, the absence of resources and educations that are available. Because if we knew, right, truly what we were going through, nobody would be confused why we need paid leave. Okay, so
you're right. I'm laughing out of the stress of that.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. So that was really like, for me, I struggled with postpartum depression with after the birth of both of my children. And I was left in this kind of swirling abyss. And I happened to be privileged in the sense that I was able to find a community and build like these resources, and happen to have some people that were very educated and understood this space, and they could literally hand it to me on a platter. But what if every mother could have access to this, like before they're spiraling, before motherhood grabs a hold of them and pulls them in to the beautiful journey that it is? And so that was really why I created Rebranding Motherhood. That's what I'm trying to continue to build. And that is what is at the heart of the brand.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love all of the things that you said. I love the mission. I love your why. It reminds me also, do you follow Neha Rush? She has an account called Mother Untitled, and she's working on, for lack of a better term, rebranding the concept of a stay-at-home mom.
Okay.
And talking about the career pause that sometimes moms tend to take. But staying at home with your children, one, is a privilege that you're able to stay home with your kids. And two, is a phenomenal training ground for leadership.
Yes.
So many times moms say, oh, well, I'm going to stay home for a couple of years and then I want to go back to work, but then I'm afraid that there's a huge gap in my resume and no one's going to hire me again. And what Neha and her team are doing on her side over on Mother Entitled is saying like, no, like motherhood is leadership. It is
100%.
time management.
100%.
It is organization. There is
100%.
so much stuff that people are taking for granted that we do day in and day out. So don't worry about that. And I'm using this in quotes, gap in your resume.
Yes.
No, lean into that. Like, that's amazing.
That's almost like an apprenticeship, right? Like it should be flipped. It's, you really want to switch your mindset. It's really not a pause. It's like, how would you celebrate doing a deep, intensive apprenticeship to strengthen every skill you needed and didn't know you needed? And then how do you come out? Like, how good are you then? Yes.
Yes. It's totally. Like iron sharpens iron. That's what it is. You get thrown into motherhood and you're like, I am so badass now. I've never been more badass than I am now. So don't worry about a silly gap in your resume. Like you are iron now.
Yes. Oh, yes, yes, yes. I can't agree with you more. It really brings me to this like kind of realization that I had, which was when I entered motherhood, I feel like it was the first time I experienced enlightenment.
Yeah.
So whatever you
like Tell me more.
Define enlightenment as, right? Like for me, it was this awakening of what your reality is and a instant deep connection with your highest self, which then translates into you living a fruitful and purposeful existence in all the things that you do. And I feel like for me, and I think for many mothers and birthing people, they also have this experience of enlightenment that has come to them. And like through my work, I've really learned a lot of the reasons why. But to me, the biggest aha is without the support, without the education about what's happening with your body literacy, what's changing, what's going on with your hormones, what's not happening with your hormones, without understanding what's happening with your mind, what's happening with your relationships, like your whole entire existence is recreated. Usually against our will, because I don't think anybody signed up for that when we signed up for motherhood. So it's like
we didn't know it was going to happen, and then you're just thrust into it, literally into the fire, right? Into the fire.
And so, but I want to be able to bring people into this beautiful magic that's happening as you're joining motherhood. But none of that's going to happen if we're not getting the right support. We're not feeling seen. No one understands what we're going through. We're feeling super isolated. Our relationships have broken down, or I'm a single parent, or we need to support our moms. We need as much support as possible. Like there's no shortage of people that can come in this space. Seriously.
Yeah. And education. I think education and support go hand in hand, obviously. But I was just chatting with a doula the other day on the podcast, and I was telling her that when I was pregnant with my son, I was scared of labor. Ultimately, he ended up being a scheduled C-section because he was breech.
Okay.
And I was having contractions that day that I was going in for the C-section. And so by the time I got there, my OB like hooked me up to the monitor and he's like, no, like you're like in labor now. Like you're having contractions. And I was like, I am? Like, that's what that is? Oh, I thought it was just like taking my breath away. I just didn't even know. And here I was like 9 months pregnant, not even understanding what was happening with my body.
Yes.
And I know that may sound silly, but like no one ever told me exactly what I was supposed to expect for a contraction or what to keep my eye out for. Right. And so like 100%. That's education. Right. And looking for warning signs with postpartum depression or anxiety. Yes. That's education. And the more we keep talking about this, the more we keep having these conversations, all of the other mothers coming up hopefully will hear these conversations, will go, okay, that's what I could look forward to. Okay, now I understand. And when we're silent, it doesn't help anybody.
No, not at all. And like, I love that you're talking about birth. I just put on a pretty big birth story event that was super, super successful. We ended up having, I think, 140,000 plays on all of our content and promo materials. We had birth.
I saw that on Instagram. That was amazing.
Thank you. It was really beautiful because I think one of the quotes I love, which is not my own quote, which is Barbara Roth Katz, I think is her name, one of the original leaders in this space of motherhood. But she talks about how birth is not just the day that we get a new soul, a new child, but it's also the birth of a mother. And our birth stories are so important and essential to setting the foundation for our entire motherhood journey. And so many birthing people like yourself lose their autonomy for Black mothers, don't even make it out alive.
Yes.
Lots of birthing people have really traumatic experiences. Like the data coming out is now talking about childhood birth, post-traumatic stress disorder. And like 1 in 6 people are going through that. It
happened to my mother. My mother had a horrific birth with me. She labored for 48 hours because I was breech. Then they figured out that I was breech. And then she was like a crash C-section. She didn't wake up for like 2 days later because she was under general anesthesia. Woke up, found out that I was a girl. Didn't believe the doctor. She literally like threw something at them, was like, "Don't you lie to me." And they're like, "No, it's a girl." She's like, "Don't you lie to me. Don't F with me." And they're like, No, seriously, Mrs. Clark, it's a girl. And so then she was just like, I mean, she still tells me that birth story with like horror. And I was her only kid. That was it. She was one and done. I mean, yes, my parents divorced when I was 2, but still, she never had another child again.
It was traumatic.
She had 40 years ago. She really struggled with that.
Wow. And I, like, to your point, could retell that story as if it happened 5 minutes ago.
Yes. And I grew up hearing that story my entire life. I mean, I can't even tell you how many times I've heard my birth story.
Right? So you're nailing it in, and just like how important these conversations are, and education of what are your rights? What are the different things that are available? I didn't even know about doulas. Like, I knew kind of what a doula was, but it was still very like this crunchy like box to the side that I didn't really quite understand. Didn't understand midwifery. Didn't understand that there's even postpartum doulas to come take care of you after the shit goes crazy.
I wish I would have known that, because I didn't know that, because the woman I interviewed the other day, she is like a birth doula and a postpartum doula. And I was like, wait, that existed?
Right?
Like, really? That's a thing?
It's a thing. And
no
so
one told
important.
me that.
Yeah, I know, right? There's all these different things. And so just like sharing the awareness and sharing the information stream is so critical, because we kind of live in this black box, and there's really a very non-binary narrative out there around what motherhood is. So we got to give some different experiences in the mix.
Yeah, no, we really do. We have to talk about all of the things. And I want to go back to the concept of rebranding motherhood.
Yes.
So like when you were thinking, you're like, I need to rebrand this. What specifically did you have to rebrand? Is it the concept of us trying to aspire to be, quote, the perfect mother in the perfect kitchen, making the perfect home cooked meals for our perfect children? Is that it?
For me, it's all of the sanitized imagery that is leaving a very disconnected viewpoint of what motherhood is. So I know, like, in our preparation, one of the questions was like, what do I think the biggest modern mom problem is? Like, what do I think the biggest challenge modern moms are facing? And I think it's literally the sanitized imagery that is inundating them, especially in social media, where we are literally showing the opposite information around postpartum. Like, what is normal? What is common? What is real? Like the fact that postpartum depression is part of PMADs, right? Perinatal mood and anxiety disorders. And guess what is the greatest news about them? They're treatable. Why aren't we talking about that? Okay. Like, we don't just have to talk about people falling apart. Like, yes, that can be part of it, but we can also treat these individuals, and they can go on to live amazing and incredible, wonderful lives with their children, fully attached. I think there's so much misrepresentation around what a good mother even is. I don't even like using that word, but like even reinforcing this good mother.
We're using it in quotes.
Yeah. You can't see people. I'm using all these terminologies in quotations of there is no good mother. Okay. You showed up to your job on the field today. you're doing it. Okay. Like you ended the session, the session for the day, which means like you did your 24-hour shift because motherhood is 24 hours a day. Like you did it. But social media will have you believe like you got to have a full beat of makeup. You got to have a full glam squad. You need to have a full camera crew, like, you know, snapping shots of your life as if it's like normal, like that your children don't have breakdowns, that you don't have breakdowns, that your relationship doesn't have breakdowns, that we're not all exercising this full spectrum of emotions as humans, and how that can become amplified through motherhood. Like there's just such a disconnect. And for me, I think motherhood is such a unique experience. I don't even want to try to take on the role of defining what your motherhood experience should be for you, because I'm a firm believer
it's different for everyone.
And it should be. That's another issue, that like all mothers are the same and all motherhood experiences need to be the same. Like they are as unique as a snowflake. And so that's really what I want to be able to do, is just hold a space for people, hold a community for people where they can see themselves. It's the same concept of representation with diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? Like living in a world that's reflective of your experiences is transformative. And that's what I want to be able to give to what I believe are the most like intergalactically magical creatures in the world, mothers.
That might be my favorite phrase. Boom. Intergalactically magical creatures.
Right?
God, I love that so much, Tina.
They're doing it.
It's true. And one thing I'm happy about with social media in the recent years, the social media conversation is a deep conversation, and
Facts.
and one that and that one we could explore. But one thing that I am pleased to see is that in the last maybe 4 years, let's say since the pandemic, mothers are being much more honest on social than they were pre-pandemic, right? No. Pre-pandemic was all about the filtered lives of these people. And don't get me wrong, there's definitely still a lot of that. But with the explosion of TikTok, people are coming up and saying like, listen, this is what it is. It's X, Y, and Z. I am struggling here. I am fighting for my life, and maybe figuratively or literally. And they're going to a mass audience now. And so I think the rebrand of motherhood is definitely on track. Do you think so?
I think we're getting there, because what I would argue too is, or at least where I feel like I get a lot of support from people, or like where I feel like my brand is really differentiated from what exists out there today, is that there's a difference between showing how tough and difficult things are, and then there's a difference between showing that and providing like progression, providing a positive space to go with that. And I do feel like there is a lot of like, everything's like the opposite of that Lego song. Everything is horrible. I'm barely surviving today. Everything sucks. Like that. There's a lot of that like rolling around. But then what? That's not helpful for anybody, because
then you need solutions.
Then I need solutions. Then I want positivity. Then I want the other side of it, right? Like it's not just that motherhood's hard and challenging and the patriarchy ruined it for all of us. Like I heard someone say the other day, I thought was such a brilliant point. Like men are also hurt by the patriarchy. Like we're all suffering from the patriarchy. Like no one's, well, maybe some people are like winning, but no one's really winning, right? And so to me, that's the difference that still has to happen. That's to me the transformational point that we need more of. Like I want more people to see that I have a PMAD, but it's not over for me. It's treatable. Here's some resources. Here's some ways to address it. Oh, you don't have that where you live? Cool. Here's some virtual ones. Oh, you don't have a computer? Cool. Here's some different things you can go research. Here's some different topics you can go try to assess for yourself, because most people have the internet. So how can we really give people tools to really cultivate the village within themselves? That's something I'm really a firm believer on. Like this whole external solutions narrative of like the village, it's all out. Like I debunk that. I put that to the corner. I don't believe in that. I don't subscribe to that, because it has to be within you. And every mom knows when you're on the floor, you haven't showered and who knows when, the kids are screaming, your partner just totally screwed you over for the first mom night out you were ever going to have in like 3 months. Like it's just you that's going to get through that moment. in reality. Like, so
It's
to me,
true.
that's the differentiation point I would call.
Yes. Wait, I want to explore this more though. You're right.
Right.
Yeah. People need to pull themselves up from it sometimes is what you're saying. You don't
100%.
always look to the village or to others.
No, I mean, even I have like the most supportive and beautiful community around me. I have this extended community through Rebranding Motherhood. And then I also have like just an expanded, any mom that ever sees me on the streets probably thinks we're best friends because I think we're best friends. Like, I want to talk about your life.
Same way, Tina.
And support. I'm like, how can I help you? Like, what can I do for you? But then I have like my inner circle of people that really see all of me, my shadow, my ego, like, and everything in between. But still, the only individual that's going to pull me out of my PMAT is me. The only individual that's going to pull me through the difficult months, weeks, days, challenges, is still me, like it's still going to be me. Like, you have this unique connection with our children. We're not the only ones that do, but there is this connection point. So I feel like that's really, really critical if we're going to empower like the next generation of mothers, because there's just not all these resources and it's really expensive to even have a village. So like, let's get real.
Yes. That's it. Walk away. Boom. That was
Mic
amazing.
drop.
Mic drop. I could already tell that's going to be the clip that I'm going to put on social media because it was so good.
Thank you. And we would all just be, I think too, I have a lot of single moms that reach out to me and follow me and are like really vocal in my community. And those, I don't like to say anybody's challenge or plight is more difficult or less difficult than others. But I mean, imagine doing this thing when you have nobody. How are they doing it? I mean, some of the most brilliant authors, writers, artists, creators, inventors came from single parent households, right? Hello.
I'm raising my hand.
Okay. Tara is one of them. And so like, how is that possible? That's not what we want for every parent. We know data and science would say like children are not meant to, they need two, like, and it doesn't have to be a mom and a mom and a dad. You need two humans, adult humans to rear them. But it can be done. And like, what are those things we can take for ourselves to just empower us to be in control?
Yeah. Yeah. Shout out to grandparents, I have to say, because
yes.
Because my grandparents helped my mom a lot. She'll be the first one to say that.
Oh my gosh, grandparents have such a special and important role for the children. And too, it's like a cool moment where we get to continue our motherhood journey, part 2, if we do become grandparents.
That's true. Yeah. I love that. No, I absolutely. Sometimes I think we overlook the role of grandparents, but like I said, coming from a single parent household, I know that my mom wouldn't have been able to go to work without my grandparents. So
yes.
I owe a lot to them. I have like the nastiest cold and I'm like so congested. It's really gross.
No. Are you doing neti pot? Are you neti potting?
No, I should, but you're right. But I should.
Neti pot. And the other thing that my husband put me on that like I just didn't believe, some YouTube thing, is time. Do you have time? Like time the herb. Take an eighth of a teaspoon.
Yeah.
Put it in your mouth, chew it, grind it, mush it up, swallow it, and watch what happens. I recommend doing your neti pot first. It's like a full like respiratory decongestant. It's kind of crazy. You can do it like 4 times a day. Like, it'll freak you out. You're going to be like, like you're going to just breathe out.
You just blew my mind. So let me tell you this. So my son at school has a garden, and each child got to bring home like a different thing. And you know what he brought home? A whole huge thing of thyme.
Look, it was meant to be.
It's just been sitting there. I don't know what to do with it.
Eat it. Eat that for your congestion. Neti pot, eat it. It's amazing. There's like this health guy on YouTube that has all these natural things. And my husband, I was super sick this winter with like a nasty thing after the next thing after the next. And I like couldn't even breathe. And it would like give me like 5 minutes when I was like completely impacted, congested. So I think you'll be good.
That's amazing. I will 100% do that. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I love that. I'm actually going to leave this part in here because that was super helpful.
This is is what the beauty of moms are. Like, we got to take care of each other. Like, who else can do it?
Yes. Well, speaking of which, wait, you're 100% right about taking care of ourselves and each other. And I want to talk about how important it is to advocate for your health in the healthcare system, especially as a woman of color.
Yes, absolutely. Oh my goodness. I mean, where do I even begin on this story? But luckily we're on a podcast. We have time. We have time for a story.
We got all the time.
We got time for a story. So essentially, I'll kind of like fast forward a part to get to how I got here. Headline is I almost died in the hands of the medical care system before I even became a mother. For those who will see in social media when this post, but if you can't see and you're just listening to me now, I'm like a relatively like kind of lean statured individual. And about, I don't even know what this was. Like,
you're fit. You're your body, you're very fit.
Try to be fit, right?
Yeah.
I was super sick. I was so sick that I was 20 pounds lighter than I am right now. That's the point of that story. Okay.
You don't even have 20 pounds to give.
Right. So you could imagine how sickly I must have been looking and appearing. And I had this crazy GI thing I just couldn't get over. I'd been to so many doctors. I'd been to the Mayo Clinic. In Minneapolis at the time. I was living there for a short period of time because I was on the Target team. I'd been to all these different doctors and OBGs in Boston, which is like a mecca for the medical health system. Yeah. And I just couldn't get over like these chronic bouts of, I had historically always had like constipation issues, which I'm learning through my therapist is a part that's been activated. We could come back to that. Okay. Forward moving. And then it turned into this like crazy chronic, like diarrhea situation where every night I would be up from, if I was lucky, like from 1 to 5 a.m., just like vomiting and like, just like full, it was just miserable. And at the time I had this like crazy intense job in corporate America and I was super stressed out. And like on paper, like it looked like I had the perfect life. I had this like great penthouse in the city.
You were crushing it.
I'm doing it, but I was dying. Like I was dying. I was withering away. And it all came to a head when my mother-in-law, who I have a really great relationship with, but it just kind of sets the tone, like where she pulled me aside and was like, Tina, are you okay? You don't look well. Like what's going on? And that was kind of the like click, click, click. Oh, Tina, you have to do something. And I give you this backdrop because I had been in the medical system. I had been in the healthcare system. I was privileged. I had an amazing job. I had like the white glove insurance plan. I could go see anybody, anywhere, anytime, and it was covered. And I was doing that. And I was getting no answers. I was getting told to take fiber, that I had IBS, take fiber. Oh, you want Miralax before it was over like an OTC? Here's a prescription for Miralax. Like, do this, do that. Nothing had fixed it. And so I'd essentially gotten so sick that I'll never forget it. Like once I was making a plan, where I could just feel my light, like your soul, like turning off. Like I could feel myself dying, basically. Like I could feel that. And what ended up happening was after I had that conversation with my mother-in-law, I said, fuck this. I'm going to take my own health into my own hands. I went onto Google. And I did my own research and I found this amazing doctor. Shout out to Dr. Brian Clark, graduate of Yale, amazing dad doctor, and made an appointment with him at his gastroenterologist practice. And he listened. He did all of the tests. I remember we did a colonoscopy and endoscopy and we couldn't find it. But when we did my first exam, we were feeling lumps. Like massive lumps in my stomach. And essentially where we landed was we finally got the right test where they showed the first scan looked like a 19 centimeter mass in my lower, it wasn't my abdominal. It was a different jurisdiction. It was in my female reproductive area.
Yeah, like even lower than your
even
abdomen.
Lower than my tummy. So of course with the medical system, it's all jurisdiction, right? So, but luckily he it didn't just say, hey, whatever. It was, hey, here's what we found. Which was a really scary call. And then here's what you got to go do. So then I was able to find an amazing OBGYN who is what people describe as a hairy midwife. For those who don't know that term, that is an OBGYN who is down when damn near a doula. Okay. Like damn near a doula and has that connective touch and has the right staff around them and really cultivates this beautiful connective relationship with his patients. He's a dad of 5 or 6, I think himself. And just an amazing human. And so I ended up finding him and he ended up doing the surgery. Of course, I had to wait 8 weeks. I think it was like 6 or 8 weeks to even get on the schedule, which was hell because I had about 3 things I could even eat. But I made it to that point, made it to the surgery. The surgery was crazy. We ended up finding out the 19 centimeter mass. Talk about traumatic. My very first ultrasound was going in by myself because it was pandemic. Or no, it wasn't pandemic, but it was just the way this appointment was. But I had to go in by myself and they went in. You guys can't see, but I'm like showing the little wand that they do in my like uterus and in my vagina and all that stuff. And they like where everyone in the waiting room was a mom. It was a pregnant woman, happy, looking cute. And I'm in here like seeing how much blood circulation is on my tumors. Are they vascular? Are they not? Like what's going to happen? Right.
God.
And there's no answers at this point. We're just, and anyone that's been through an ultrasound,
you're just waiting
awful.
There because the tech can't say anything.
They won't.
The worst.
They won't. No. And they tell you, sorry, I can't read it and whatever. So
you're like, don't BS me.
Come on. You've been trained.
No.
You've been trained.
I see the look on your face.
Okay. Come on. So essentially, we made a plan and the type of tumors that I had are what are called dermoid cysts. So for those who do not know what a dermoid cyst are, I basically call them like little freaking gremlins that grow in your body because they're basically eggs that come out and basically like turn into like little monsters. Like they basically try to create themselves into something, but there's no like sperm or the other part of the egg to do anything. So they just kind of create. So like literally when they took these dermoid cysts out, they had teeth, they had hair, like one of them had red hair. One of them had black hair, like they're little whatever. And then, of course, you have to get them checked to make sure they're not tumorous, which mine were all benign.
Thank God.
Thank goodness, right? Like, oh, my goodness. But it was this wild, wild experience that happened for me. And I was able to get out. I had an amazing doctor, an amazing team. But again, this was all through me advocating for myself. When the medical system was in control of my health, I was dying. I was withering away. I was dying.
We would not be here having this conversation.
I wouldn't
You
be
would
here.
not be the mother of 2 beautiful children.
I wouldn't. And so the things I learned going into that were so many different things. But the most important thing that I learned is that we have full power and autonomy over our own health and wealth. Unfortunately, that's another thing that could use a rebrand, but I can only rebrand so many things at a time. Okay.
It has to wait its turn.
It's got to wait its turn.
Back for you.
I'm going to come back for you, healthcare system. But essentially, there's this notion of inferiority. Sorry, y'all. That as a patient, anybody who's not a doctor has in the medical system. You kind of have this natural, like unhealthy relationship of power balance where the doctors are the kings and they're in control. That's just kind of how I feel like my perception was of it. And that you're not allowed to push back. You're not allowed to ask questions because in your mind, you almost feel like these are people that take an oath. They're supposed to help me no matter what. But they're still human. Okay. Like that's not, I mean, they're still human beings. So whatever, systematic, oppression and systematic like narratives that they've become a part of are going to become a part of the way they practice. And so everybody has the right to stop a doctor and say, this is not okay for me. This is not the treatment that works for me. This is not a plan that feels good to me. You can say, I don't want to see you again as a doctor. You can go get a new doctor. You can not have a doctor. You can go do Eastern medicine. You can go do acupuncture. You can do any and everything in between. And so understanding that someone is not in control and that you know best. That's another thing that, like, when I say the village is within yourself, it really comes back to this nucleus of trusting your gut. Okay. Because when you become a mom, you get this like natural pathway into your gut. And for a lot of us who have had childhood trauma, like myself, or who have experienced life trauma, like many women have, whether it's from trying to conceive and 1 in 4 women's birth ending in a miscarriage, or sexual trauma, or any of these things that are sadly part of the fabric of being a female person, a female human in this identifying human in our world. It's all there, but so you lose that gut. But connecting back into that gut is our superpower. It's truly your superpower. And if that's something you're told to not listen to, you're really going to be out there like flailing in this world. And so it's all to me about like just trusting your inner barometer that's saying something doesn't feel right. Like I shouldn't be this sick, or I should have a better plan, and going that way.
Tina, you are amazing. You are incredible. I adore you more than words can say.
Oh, Tara, thank you.
It's so true. Tell everyone where we can find you online, where we could learn more about Rebranding Motherhood.
Yes. So y'all can find me on Instagram, and that's where I'll post like any upcoming events or fun stuff. And that's at rebranding.motherhood, spelled normal English style, normal regular English. And then my website is also on my link in bio, but it's www.rebrandingmotherhood.co, not com, .co.
I hear you. I just recently got taraclark.co, so
yes,
I'm with you on that one.
It's the future. It's the future.
That's what I thought.
You know?
I love it. You're amazing. Thank you so much for being here today with me.
It was honestly such an honor and a pleasure. And I just want to thank you, Tara, and like give you some props, because I really appreciated you being super open to even like considering like me coming on and telling my story and just holding a platform to really tell all the stories. So thanks, Mama.
Of course. I appreciate you so much.
You too.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of Modern Mom Probs. I hope you enjoyed our deep dive in today's problem with me, your host, Tara Clark. Join me next time when I'll be interviewing another great guest and tackling another modern mom problem. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a review and a rating. As always, you could head over to Modern Mom Probs on Instagram and give me a follow, or check out my book, Modern Mom Probs, A Survival Guide for 21st Century Mothers, available online wherever books are sold. Well, that's it for today. See you next time, folks.